Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, angel therapy practitioner, empowerment coach, and Reiki master. And I'm here today to talk about December's heavenly horoscopes. It is, we've been talking about, every month, oh, it's a, pivotal month, so many things going on. And December is no different, if not even taking it up an octave. We have some very transformational energies going on. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about some general transits, and then I'm going to address some transits that the United States as an entity is going through, what's happening within the United States natal chart, and how the transits are affecting the United States in general, because this is taking us into and will trickle down into our personal lives. It's not really a commentary on politics or on the right or wrong of anything. It's just more about the landscape, the astrological weather. I think all of us have noticed a rise in people's anger and impatience and violence. So this is sort of why I'm bringing this up, because this is a landscape. This is an environment that we're walking through. So before I start, I'd like to just do a little bit of business. I do all of my astrology videos based on Western tropical astrology, whole sign astrology. So these videos are going to be based first off on your rising sign. That is the sign that was ascending when you were being born. Then I would check my moon sign. Then I would check my sun sign. And if you have a stellium, which is on a stricter basis, 4 planets in one sign or house, on a more flexible basis, I guess we could say it would be 3 planets. In one sign or house, this is significant. Now, if these are personal planets like the sun, the moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars, it's even more significant. If they're outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, these are generational dynamics, because these planets move very slowly and many people will experience them in the same house. So let's dive on in and start with December. The month kind of kicks off with a bang. Neptune, the planet of spirits, has been retrograde, and it will be stationing to go direct in Pisces. This is going to start to bring about an energy where people will start to well, I kind of want to say it this way, because we could find out that we've been lied to in some ways. We could find out that there is information that's been hidden and that will come to light. The Neptune rules the 12th house, that which is concealed, which is behind us, things that happened behind closed doors. It's also having an aspect to the United States natal Neptune. So naturally, Pisces rules the 12th house and Virgo rules the 6th house. So the United States has Neptune natally in the 6th house of Virgo, work, service, health. And Neptune is transiting the 12th house, which represents hospitals, laboratories, research, bedrooms, retreats, spas. It represents our ancestors. So I bring this up because I think there's the potential that we'll get more information about various things in regards to our health and to the dynamics that have been going on around the world within our health. So that's one aspect. On December 3rd, and all these times are Pacific time, I'm in the Pacific time zone, we have a solar eclipse in Sagittarius. And I'm going to focus my readings later on, because I'm going to do readings for each one of the signs after I go through the dynamics. But this Sagittarian eclipse is directly on the United States ascendant. it's at 12 degrees Sagittarius. And most people go by the time that the Declaration of Independence was signed on July 4th, 1776, and it was around 5 p.m. I can't remember the exact time. So this is going to be significant in many ways. Sagittarius naturally rules travel, foreign places. It rules higher education, masters, PhDs, the bigger concepts, the broader concepts of who am I, what am I. It represents the connection to the angelic realm. It also governs judicial systems. So I think what we're going to see in this eclipse is sort of, this eclipse is like it's conjunct within 1 degree of the ascendant. So I think we're going to start to see the environment of the United States start to really re-examining their beliefs about things and their sense of ability to move freely. Because in representing foreign things, it represents foreign travel. And we're coming up on the holidays. The whole world is coming up on the holidays. And I absolutely believe that we are going to experience some challenges in our airline situations and travel over this month. But this eclipse, I'm going to go into more detail about the eclipse again later on in the video. On about the 14th of December, we have Mercury, which rules our everyday activities. It rules our communications, what we think, what we speak, what we teach, what we write about. It rules our teammates, our workmates, our neighborhoods, our communities, our sidewalks, our roadways. It is going to be moving into Capricorn, and Mars will be moving into Sagittarius. Mars moving into Sagittarius will be a bit of a respite. Mars is the co-ruler of Scorpio and can be a little bit assertive in Scorpio. And I think anybody who lived through November 2021 might have experienced that. I know I did. We also have around the 14th, Venus, which rules our money. It rules self-confidence. It rules beauty. It rules arts, leisure. It rules femininity and love. It is going to be conjunct Pluto. Pluto represents death and decay. It represents other people's money. It represents the things we don't see, the things that are done. It represents plumbing. Represents, like if you think about a house, it represents all the things inside the walls that you can't see, but that you need so desperately. So Venus here having this conjunction at 25 degrees, and this is the first time it will happen this month. It will happen again at the end of the month. I think it's closer to, let me see my notes, around the 24th. I think this is very significant because Capricorn rules restriction. It governs, it is responsible for government authority, energies that are of a stoic behavior, of a nature where I'm doing something I'm not necessarily enjoying, but it's necessary and it's expected and it is my duty. So I feel like we're going to see, Venus is going forward in this first meeting with Pluto. Venus will go retrograde in Capricorn around, I believe, the 18th, 19th, depending upon where you are in the world. And then Venus will move forward again in January. So this conjunction between Pluto and Venus is going to happen in the house that governs our money. And I say governs our money because this would be the government potentially putting restrictions on things that we find pleasurable. It could come in the form of some sort of restriction of money, maybe kind of the word taxes is running around in my head. But I do think that we're going to feel this sense of restriction. On the 18th, we'll have a full moon in Gemini. I'll do a separate video on that. And this is where Venus will go retrograde, the 18th, 19th in Capricorn. On the 21st of December, the sun will move into Capricorn and we'll have the winter solstice. So we're going to start to see the sun join Venus and Pluto in Capricorn. And we're just starting this. And the main theme for 2021 was the Uranus, or is the Uranus-Saturn square. We will have the third exact square on or about the 24th of December. This is so pivotal because these are happening at these very emotional times. Many people experience the holidays in a very challenging way. They're not full of the, Lifetime Hallmark movies. They're rather isolating and can feel rather lonely. And there's been so much loss that's happened for many people over the last couple of years due to the pandemic. So I want to offer it this way, because this final Uranus is retrograde, Saturn is going forward, Saturn is in Aquarius, and Uranus is in Taurus. Saturn and Uranus co-rule Aquarius. So there's a cooperation between the planet Uranus of explosions, of rebellion, of liberation, of lightning, of electricity, of nervousness, feeling nervous, and the planet of following the rules, Saturn, a planet of dutiful behavior, because there's what I believe this square is offering in its final conjunction. It's at 11 degrees. The 11 number is significant for many of us. It represents the master number of thought. So 2021 has given us an opportunity to really look at our behaviors, look at our belief systems, look at our everyday lives, and are we walking through them authentically to our happiness, or are we in some way walking through them to feel secure and safe? And that usually comes in the form of a paycheck or in the form of money. So this whole month, between what's going to happen within the United States, because the United States is considered a world power. So whatever happens in that country ripples throughout the world. So I think what we're going to see, first of all, and I want to say this about travel during the holidays, I'm very concerned that people are going to get stuck places, or flights will get canceled, or there'll be a lot of restrictions placed on travel. I already know that some places in the world, because of the new strain of the virus, are already shutting down aviation travel. So just be very mindful if you go somewhere, take extra underwear, be prepared to be stuck potentially. And then I want to really go back to the idea that as you may feel a little anxious, Uranus creating this square about how you've been showing up, I want you to start to think that Saturn rewards hard work. And the hard work is not working hard for someone else's agenda, but rather working at really looking at what makes you happy and what would liberate you from some energies that you have perpetrated that are habitual. You're not even conscious that you're a part of what is making you maybe feel a little bit discontent. We end the year, December 30th is not quite the end of the year, but we end the year with Mercury conjunct Pluto at 25 degrees Capricorn, and Venus retrograde 1 degree away. So the end of the year, this is where I really, Mercury ruling travel, not necessarily foreign travel. It could be domestic travel. It could be your everyday activities, finding these things, feeling very under renovation. And I want you to think of Pluto as the phoenix that rises from the ashes. These planets are not in these configurations to tank us, to pull the rug out from underneath us, but to rather ask us the deeper questions. What are you pretending not to know? How are you participating in your own experiences? And what if you decided to shift just a little bit to a place that was more aligned to something that you find enjoyable, favorable, and pleasurable? Because I want to talk a little bit about the United States transits right now for December, because we are seeing, and I put these all sort of, I just listed them. So I'm not going to go into the actual date. I'm just going to sort of tell you these. I want you to think of them as clouds. They could be sun clouds, they could be rain clouds, but they're flying over the sky, creating the dynamic which we're walking through. So we have, with the United States, Capricorn is the second house. The second house rules money. It rules our self-confidence, and it's naturally Taurus and ruled by Venus. So the United States has Pluto at approximately the middle of the month at 27 degrees in alignment with transiting Pluto or coming up. These dynamics are moving towards each other, and Venus is coming in at 25 degrees. This is all around the middle of the month. Yeah. Towards the end of the month. This is this dynamic, which is really teeing up. Pluto will be exact. The United States will have its exact Pluto return in February. So this is this building of this slow moving planet coming into alignment to ask us if we're living the deeper truth of the foundational aspects of what this country was created on. We also will have in the middle of the month, the natal moon will be conjunct the transiting Pluto. The natal moon is in Aquarius at 27 degrees for the United States. This is the third house for the United States, which is ruling our everyday activities. And it is going to be highlighted by transiting Jupiter. I think this is very significant because as a country, we're going to feel very emotional about our beliefs and about the ideas of what Jupiter rules, about foreign travel, about the freedoms of travel, about education. There could be things coming up and dynamics put into place as a result of the variants of the strain that feel restrictive, and this may create a little bit of tension. We also have I already talked about the natal Neptune in opposition to transiting Neptune. And then again, we have this dynamic at the end of the month where Pluto, Venus, and Mercury are going to meet. So as we get around Christmas time, as we get into the last week of the year, I really think we're going to feel a sense of restriction and a sense of, how do I want to phrase it? I guess a little bit of fear. I guess I might say, because the world feels like it's like the decisions that are being made feel like they change. That's the way I want to put it. It feels like the information that's coming out, one minute it feels one way, the next minute it feels like it's another way. And I'm trying somehow to remove the fog so that I can get a clear picture of how to take action. So this is where I'm going with this. As a transformational being on this planet, because if you're watching a video like mine, you are here and aware of your own awakening and your own transformation on this planet. So your connection to spirit during this month and really, working with them as your partner, asking them to help illuminate and to highlight experiences that allow you to be the thriving, contrasting experience while the world feels as if it is going into a restrictive sort of cocoon, and that transformation is still unknown. So we must set an intention rather than a wish. When I was first, putting together my notes for this video, and I realized that the Saturn Uranus square was going to be at 11 degrees. And I don't remember what the other two were. It could have been 11 degrees, but that really hit me because so many people I know have 1111 alarm on their phone. So many people think make a wish, and they're very aware of that number. So this is where we can truly liberate ourselves from the idea of looking at what's happening in the outside world and deciding, have I contracted to be part of the see that this is happening to, or did I contract as a soul to be the lighthouse that shines brightly and thrives during this period of time to be part of what represents the balance? Pluto represents control and power. It also represents a lot of money. So there is, while this may initially seem rather tenuous and a little bit concerning, it has the ability to be very transformational in a high vibrational way. But I do think that our conscious participation is a requirement, not an elective. So let's go and talk about how this is going to affect each one of the signs. I'm going to do this by your rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, you can go to any one. There's tons of free astrological sites. You will need obviously your birthday. You will need your exact time, because the moon and the ascendant can shift within minutes. I have twin niece and nephew, and while all their other planets are the same, their ascendants are different because they're born 10 minutes apart. So you want to know your time of birth. And what else do you need? The date, time, and location. So check that out. And again, I'm going by whole sign Western tropical astrology. So let's start with our Aries. Aries, Sagittarius. This Sagittarius eclipse is going to happen to you in your 9th house. The 9th house represents foreign travel. It represents religion. It represents higher education, meaning PhDs, very philosophical house. And what I think is going to happen is you're going to really look at this solar eclipse and you're going to start to say to yourself, what do I believe about myself? Is what I have known about myself current at this time? And I want to say this too, because I have if you're traveling, if you're literally traveling, especially to a foreign country, I feel like you need to be prepared. And I don't mean prepared necessarily in the packing process, but in your emotional and spiritual body, so that you can be flexible during this time where you could potentially be sitting at an airport and have your flight canceled, or you could be, go to see your parents somewhere and then you can't get back home. I think a mental preparation and flexibility there, because this will be an obvious thing. It's not something that will just be, I feel like it's going to be kind of in the news. So let's look and see what Spirit has to say for you directly. I'm an Aries rising, so this is happening for me in the 9th house. And what I think I've found for myself is that while I do this work and I feel connected to Spirit, November was very challenging for me. And I almost felt as if my connection to Spirit, I wasn't sure if I was full of what. And so I literally asked Spirit to give me an earth experience, tangible, just like the table I'm sitting at. So to anchor in. And within days, through a series of disruptions, Spirit did exactly that. And part of it was my willingness to evolve. I don't advertise that I do mediumship because I have a certain amount of trepidation about channeling people from the other side. So this experience that happened to me this last week was a woman who had lost her son, and he had come through before, but in this particular session, he wanted to get a message across to somebody else. So the whole session was being interrupted. The phone line kept getting disconnected and paused. And every time I tried to call her back, literally hitting the callback button, the phone would call this young gentleman. And he'd be like, I don't know you. And I'm like, I don't know you either. Where's the lady? And it turned out that this was this guy who had crossed over his friend, and he got a message to his friend. And the minute I connected with this young man, the phone was crystal clear. There was not any problem whatsoever. So the 9th house represents the connection to the angelic realm. If indeed all of the earthbound things that are going on are not really a problem or of concern to you, but you want to feel a more tangible experience with your guides and your team, then call upon them to give you that experience, and then you be open to receiving it. Okay, here we go. Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. What does Spirit want you to know for the month of December, and in particular, what this new moon eclipse will bring for you? Eclipses usher in a 6-month energy. A new moon is planting the seeds in the darkness. An eclipse has the power that is like 10 times greater than a normal new moon. So our first angel, Aries, is Archangel Raphael, the angel of healing. Then we have Bridget in the opportunity or the obstacle. We have Omega in the angel's advice. And then we have Opal in the final position. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the Raven. Bridget's being joined by the High Priestess. Omega's being joined by the Risk Guard. And Opal's being joined by the Grail Knight. Okay, so the idea that Sagittarius rules the connection to the angelic realm. I want to offer this to you because our alignment to source energy is one of the most powerful things that we can do for our physical health. Aries, you know, it's not a sheepish sign. Aries likes, you know, when Aries gets angry, Aries has no problem expressing itself. But now I'm thinking, being an Aries rising myself, it's time for me to look deeper into what may potentially trigger me. Because in addition to this eclipse happening in Sagittarius in your 9th house, Aries also has Chiron transiting Aries right now. So that will affect everybody somehow in the chart, but it's going to affect Aries directly in some way, at least on your ascendant or your moon or your sun. And if there's more planets in Aries, this is going to affect you, because what I think Archangel Raphael is offering you is an epiphany. I think you've been through the darkness and now you're coming out, and it's time to give life to the idea that you have evolved. I think sometimes we have post-traumatic stress syndrome emotionally, because you can't see our emotions and the damage. I look at the idea of Dr. Emoto talking about how our cells change shape when we're angry versus when we're happy. And I feel like there's a little part of you. This is a magic. This is timing. This is synchronistic events. So to me, this epiphany is now, and it's time for you to start to cultivate and to integrate some of the more darker moments in your life and turn them into light, because that's what they have to offer you. It's time on some level to look deeper into your own intuitive and spiritual body, because there's more victory to be had than you may potentially acknowledge. You know, the human by nature tends to solve a problem and then go directly to the next situation, rather than sitting in the basking in the glory of this solution. And I feel like it's a little bit of time for Aries to risk feeling victorious, not in overcoming or letting go of your issues, but rather finding the wisdom within them, which creates an integration. Okay, because Opal talks about your children being safe on heaven and earth. I think you are the child of God, of source energy. And rather than labeling yourself this angry Martian energy that most people talk about when they talk about the god of war, Aries, I think this is you here, the Grail Knight, much more a Knights Templar, much more a spiritual warrior who does not fight for the sake of war, but rather seeks to be the perpetrator and arbiter of love, of the truth, of the dynamic that our challenges really are the seedlings, the impetus, the opportunity for us to feel this exhilaration. And I think this is part of what Aries epiphany could be. I know for myself that recently, my dog, who is my child, I don't have any children, most of you know that, He's been experiencing an allergy and some other stuff, and I've had to dig deep into what I know and trust an intuitive part of myself. And as I have risked not listening to other humans, but rather trusting an inner knowing, I have felt protected by God and the angels, because I feel that I have a sacred mission here to help be the perpetrator of balance and to help illuminate the wisdom of challenges, the exhilaration that fear has to offer us, or some of these emotions that we try to avoid and we resist. And within those very emotions lie the ingredients for us to be so excited and happy. Chiron, if you study astrology, some of the people on my channel don't, it's the wounded healer. And within that wound is the gift. So it's that double-edged sword. So that's what I think this new moon in Sagittarius has an opportunity for Aries specifically to have an epiphany about where you've been, and now to start to incorporate that to a higher vibration and to rename yourself. If you've been called hostile, angry, aggressive, no, I have been assertive, I've been determined, and I've been courageous. And now what I get to do as an Aries, rising moon, sun, or stellium is to start to learn how to be diplomatic when I express myself. And that's the gift and the healing and the opportunity. All right, let's go on to our Tauruses. Taurus, this eclipse is going to happen for you in your 8th house. The 8th house by nature rules other people's money. It rules taxes and inheritances. It rules more of the shadow side of partnership. You know, if we've experienced an inheritance, we've also experienced a death. It rules sex, intimacy. It rules the unknown. So for Taurus, for this Sagittarius 8th house dynamic, it's giving you an opportunity to really look and decide, because I want to offer it this way. Taurus rules naturally the 2nd house, which is ruled by Venus. So I feel like there is this opportunity for you to look and to be reborn in how you view your money, how you view your vulnerability to other people. For some reason, if indeed, let's say you're married, and let's say one person in the marriage is the primary material provider, this is an opportunity for you to find value in what you provide beyond the dollar. Oftentimes humans do not give enough credit for efforts, for service, for what we bring to a table. Kind of like when you work in an office, the admin doesn't make much money, but the salespeople who bring money into the company usually make more money. And yet the salespeople can't do what they do without the admin people to create the structure. So for Taurus, I think that this is an opportunity for you to reevaluate your own worthiness in relation to how you're addressing with other people or how you're dealing with partnerships. And I even want to offer this too, because it may spawn a little bit of a interest in things that are a little broader, like astrology, or studying some of the other aspects of spirituality. There's so many rich cultures that have a beautiful history of spirituality that when we look at it, we find common themes for all of us. So let's see what Spirit has to say for Taurus. So that it didn't fly on the floor. Okay, Taurus, our first angel is Serena, the angel of money. Then we have Maya, In the opportunity or the obstacle, we have Francesca in the angel's advice, and then we have Archangel Uriel. Taurus is it rules money. The second house rules money, and they call it the house of security. They also call it the house of insecurity. So I think that this is really significant because this new moon total solar eclipse can give you an opportunity to shift your beliefs into a place you've never been, and thereby starting to trust your ability to create the resources you need to feel safe and materially secure on this planet. So Serena is being joined by the Wealth card. Love that, Taurus. Maya's being joined by the Burden card. Francesca's being joined by the Swan. And Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Fear card. Okay, so naturally the human thinks, I have to go do something to make money. I must go hit the pavement. I must make those phone calls. And I feel like for Taurus, which is a fixed sign. So what that means is that the fixed signs tend not to shift. They have a perception, a perspective, and they kind of stick to it. So this is a bit of a challenge in some respects because Spirit is saying to Taurus, when it comes to money, I'm talking straight up money. And if you go to the beginning of this video, I did talk about the aspects of Venus being in Capricorn. It's going to affect money. Your ability to be serene, your ability, sorry about the manicure, your ability to be calm, cool, and collected is how your money will come to you. And I want to offer it this way because I'm not talking about being a bobblehead. I'm not talking about sitting here and saying, oh, Spirit, thank you so much for bringing me money. And on the inside quivering in fear, because Spirit and source energy is kind of like a dog. It can see through the mask down to the depths of what you really believe. And I think this is where it's going to be a challenge because the human will tell you that you don't receive. You have to go get it and bring it to you. That is not true from source energy. The law of attraction says that as I align to the outcome I want, I will receive that outcome. And the way to do that is to be serene about your wealth. This is harmonious wealth, not just money. So sometimes things come into play that may not be cash, but they're resources to move your story forward. Because Taurus may be feeling slightly frustrated learning this lesson. This is Maya, the angel of schooling and education, and here's the burden card. Because if you think about it, Taurus rules beasts of burden. They are the ox, the bulls, right? So you think you've got to plow the fields, you've got to push, and this is the opposite. You are learning how to receive and how to align and to be aware of your own energy. Now let's go back to the idea that, what was I talking? Oh, the Uranus and Saturn square that's happening. So Taurus, you have been experiencing Uranus transiting through your house for years now, since 2017, I think. So if you're anywhere near an 11-degree Taurus, within 3 or 4 degrees, I would say, this square is pretty much hitting you on the head. And it's an 11-degree square. So I'm going to go back to, what am I thinking? What am I focusing in on? Because that's the burden. I can't help but worry. I need the money. I need my resources. And as long as you're fretting about it and worrying about it, it's pinching it. So what do angels say? What are you focusing in on right now? Negativity will block your progress. And there's the swan. The swan is about trusting my intuitive gifts. Now I want to offer it this way, because if indeed Taurus has had some challenges feeling receptive when it comes to their material security, this is where you get an opportunity to truly be of service to others. Because as you are willing to realize that your own frustration is adding to your fear, you can ask yourself, how can fear serve me? Because fear is also false evidence appearing real. And one of my favorite new sayings is face everything and rise. Because the astrological weather right now has the planet of money, Venus, your ruling planet, in Capricorn. It's a bit restrictive. It's a bit Venus doesn't necessarily like being in Capricorn. So when you're watching the news, when you're watching the events around you, part of your opportunity, as Maya would offer you, is to say, do I have to have the herd experience, HERD, what everyone else is, or am I somehow aligned to a vibration that cuts right through the herd and brings me everything that I need? And that's a new moon. So total solar eclipse, giving you a foreign thought that changes your whole experience and connects you to spirit in a way that not only serves your material security, but it also serves as an example for others. All right, let's go on to our Geminis. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. This is going to be happening in your 7th house of partnerships. Now, most people think of the 7th house as marriage, and it is. It's also contracts between two people in business. It also rules diplomacy. It also rules harmony. It rules fairness and cooperation. So these are things beyond just the intimate partnership, and we need to start to broaden these things, so we can look at things from a little bit, opening our opportunities up and our pathways up. Because when we get too narrow, then we start to feel like this is our only choice. And sometimes Libra will feel like it must be cooperative to its own detriment. I'm sorry, I didn't mean Libra. This is the Gemini reading, but it's in the 7th house. Is this where this Sagittarius eclipse is happening? And the 7th house is naturally ruled by Libra. That's why I said that. Okay, Gemini. Our first angel is Grace and Antoinette, the angels of compassion. Then we have Rosetta in the opportunity or the obstacle. We have Adriana in the angel's advice. And then we have Serena, the angel of abundance, in the final position. Joining Grace and Antoinette, we have the Lady of the Lake. Joining Rosetta, we have the Letting Go card. Joining Adriana, we have the Fire Fairy. And joining Serena, we have the Hawk. Grace and Antoinette is an energy of compassion. And compassion is not empathy. Compassion is being able to feel the vibration of understanding and yet not the call to action to fix something. That's how I interpret it. Because Gemini, when it comes to your 7th house of partnerships, I feel like you're standing in a sense of your own truth, and there takes courage in order, and it takes compassion for you to stand in this energy of unsureness, because this is an emotional storm. This is a mental storm. Gemini rules the twins, so there may be a fight between your head and your heart. What the Sagittarius connection to the angelic realm is telling you that's not in the tangible material world yet, because the Lady of the Lake is holding Excalibur, but she's holding it ever so lightly. There's no hard grip. Look at her bottom hand. It's just laying there. So as she stands in her truth, she is able to weather the storm, and it takes self-compassion, because you are being guided in many ways into understanding how your alignment with your truth, your deeper truth, is actually serving you. This letting go card for me is never about letting go. It's the song Let It Go from the movie Frozen. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. And that's where I feel like this is more about a childlike innocence, as I step away from my fear and I have compassion while I sit in the neutral zone of unknowing. And I have a bit of a wobble in that zone, because my Gemini mind is going back and forth. It's saying yes on some level and then no on another. Now let's look at this again and reiterate the idea that for Gemini, this is the 7th house of partnerships, in the house of foreign people and foreign things. So you may be engaged in contracts and in situations that are of a foreign nature, either foreign to you or with foreign entities, because as you're starting to learn to trust the bigger picture and having compassion for yourself, you're starting to see yourself being led by God and the angels, and your job is to be excited, not necessarily positive, but to be continually willing to be inspired by spirits leading the way. Because for Gemini, there is this serenity that comes as you step above a situation. This, the idea of Gemini and Sagittarius on the axis, astrologers will say that Gemini rules the everyday mind, the things that we deal with in our everyday world, whereas meaning like emails and running our errands and our newspapers and schooling and all that in the way of children. And then Sagittarius would rule university and philosophical concepts and broader things. So to me, as you sit in compassion, Gemini, for your own sort of emotional and mental journey of discovery and compassion of your own truth, you will feel a sense of serenity as you walk forward. Now, this plays back to the Saturn-Uranus square that has been dominant for the year 2021. And it is having its final third exact conjunction at the 11th degree, the master number of thought. So I think this is going to affect everybody. And as we are looking deeper and deeper into the layers of connectedness, how almost a disruption leads to something we find pleasant and pleasurable, then we become a little bit more curious within our own lives versus fearful that something negative is going to happen. All right, let's go on to our Cancers. Cancer, this is going to happen in your 6th house of health, of service, of work, of employees and employers. So Sagittarius is your 6th house. Let's see how this eclipse is going to affect you. Our first angel for Cancer, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums is Desiree. The second is Layla. The third is Bridget. And the final is Archangel Michael. All right, let's see. Desiree is being joined by the risk card. Layla's being joined by the protection card. Bridget is being joined by Merlin. And Archangel Michael is being joined by the eagle. The first thing that I want to say for my Cancers is that Desiree talks about conditions not being favorable. And when I see the risk card on top of it, I don't think you should take any risks this month, especially with your money. I say that only because we've got a lot of activity with Venus and Pluto in Capricorn, and I feel there's going to be restriction and a sense of tightening with money in general. But for my Cancers, I feel like there is this, when I look at Desiree, I feel sort of this uncomfortable feeling of vulnerability. And I feel like it's so uncomfortable that I want to do something about it. But if I try to do something about it now, I'm going to actually be taking my actions based on some old dynamic that may not be current. Again, Sagittarius, while it rules foreign travel and it rules higher education and it rules religion and our personal belief systems, I also think that there's something going on here about people having these foreign ideas they've never had before. For instance, I had this feeling about a month and a half ago or so where I was having a down day and I was really feeling low. And then I realized that this was a habit, or there was something that had triggered me. And I always responded in this particular way to this dynamic. And the truth was, I didn't feel that way anymore. And I didn't have the same perception of the dynamic. And that's what I think Spirit is asking for Cancer, to look deeper, to risk looking deeper into a situation. Or are you in some sort of habitual emotional response? You know, we know that an eclipse involves the sun and the moon together, as well as the new moon. But the idea of this eclipse, this is a solar eclipse. I feel like I need to look and connect with Spirit. And the protection doesn't come from Spirit. This protection card is a 38. That is the number of thought, meaning it reduces down to an 11. I feel like it's really important for Cancer right now not to have conversations with other people about a specific dynamic, but rather to look deeper about how you are responding in an evolved way, because there is magic to be had when you're willing to look deeper. Because I think that you may be feeling kind of a little bit low, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And when you give yourself permission to say, you know what, I don't know if I care that much about this anymore, or I don't know if I'm that worried about this anymore, or I'm surrendering to a situation I have no control over. And instead of feeling low about it, I actually feel a sense of serenity about it, because Archangel Michael is here. And I think this is also, again, about protection, but the courage to actually take a much deeper look into what it is that is not favorable right now. So let me offer it this way, because this is in your 6th house of health, the 6th house of slavery. They call it slavery because most people work for a paycheck. They're not working for their passions. So Cancer being the sign of nurturing, naturally ruling the mother, is there something that you're perpetrating, either a viewpoint of your health, a viewpoint of your work, a viewpoint of your responsibilities, your duty? Thinking of the 6th house naturally ruled by Virgo, it's dependable, like structure. Because I feel here that when you look a little bit more deeply, you'll find a sense of peace. Maybe things are changing. Maybe things aren't repetitive. Maybe things are opening up for me and I'm just in an incubation period, a gestation period. And my opportunity as a Cancer is to use the moon to go into my deeper intuitions. Everything is asking you to slow down and take a second look. That's for you, not for somebody else. All right, let's go on to our Leos. Leo rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. This solar eclipse, total solar eclipse in Sagittarius, will be in your 5th house of children, of personal creativity, enjoyment, pleasure. That's what the 5th house naturally rules. So let's see what the Spirit has to say. Flying everywhere. All right, we have Bridget in the foundational position. We have Rosetta in the opportunity or the obstacle. We have Xana in the angel's advice, and then we have Oceana. Bridget is being joined by the Queen. Rosetta is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Xana is being joined by the High Priestess. And Oceana is being joined by the Focus card. This feels very much as if it is addressing the children. And I want to offer it this way because there is such a feeling of vulnerability going into this month of December. Again, the astrological dynamics moving forward and into 2022, 2023, 2024 for the United States specifically is very transformational. And the tensions that we will see brewing will affect us all. So now let's think about Sagittarius ruling education, ruling my child going to college, okay? Because I feel like while the world is a little bit wonky right now, it's very important for our Leo, rising moon, sun, and stelliums to think of the queen as receptive energy, her serenity, being able to look deeper into the situation, because this is what I want to say. Throughout history, whenever there have been challenging times, there have always been people who have thrived, people who have excelled, people who have achieved. And if you give yourself the privilege of looking at history, you will see that many people who come from an oppressed dynamic were breaking boxes. And I feel like part of it was because they focused in on what they wanted, and they were looking deeper past the obstacles and into the idea of the solutions. Because I think this has something to do with your children as well, because here is the child and the idea of teaching, teaching, guiding, and parenting children. And here's the Lady of the Lake. And again, this is where I want to kind of focus in on the idea of this storm she's standing in, because this feels a lot like it's outside influences. And it's hard for me to trust my intuitive body when all the outside stimuli is telling me that things are scary right now. We're vulnerable. And what Spirit wants you to know is that as you connect with your deeper inner intuitions and truth, you are being protected, and so are your children. Because Oceana is asking Leo, as the Lion King of the zodiac, it is time to assume the position of leadership and to really allow for your idea of, I'm receiving everything that I need. I'm receiving the bounty that I need. I'm receiving the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual protection that I need in order to stand as a leader and help invite people into balance. Because we have Oceana telling you to trust your emotional body and to take action, and only to focus in on what is coming up through the receptivity of the queen. It's almost as if going past the superficial or shallow experience that you're having and moving deeper. So I'm going to give you a quick example. Again, I don't have children, but I do have my dog, and he is my child. Recently, he experienced some sort of weird out of nowhere. He's got a rash. I think he's having some sort of allergic reaction. And then his ears got all weird and funky and infected and goop, I don't know, gross. Anyway, my point is that I've always treated my animals naturally, and Lucky's my first dog. So I went deeper into my intuitions, and I asked Spirit to work with me as I started to treat him with some herbal remedies. And I had to dig deep into my truth about my child. And I asked Spirit to let me know that we were protected, as I was using what Spirit created on this planet to facilitate healing. And I only focused in on my intuitive body, because everybody else would have told me to take a different route. So this intuitiveness is not about being a rebel to other people's opinions. It's about filtering through them so that you can feel the truth resonate within you. And Spirit may use other people or other dynamics to confirm that truth. Be like, that's what I thought. And then you hear something on the news or blah, blah, blah. But I feel like it's super important to allow yourself to stretch outside the box, to go into foreign thoughts and ideas and concepts when it comes to everything that you are birthing. Now, I was focusing in on actual physical children, but if you're like me and you haven't had children, then this could be a creative endeavor. Because again, the fifth house naturally rules creativity, self-expression, pleasure, fun, and entertainment. And here, Leo rising has that in here in the fifth house of Sagittarius. So there's something attached to the foreignness, the rising above, the philosophical dynamic of what that sign represents. All right, let's go into our Virgos now. Virgo, this is going to be in your fourth house of home. That's Virgo rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Some of you end up moving to a foreign country. Who knows, maybe the United States will end up being a foreign country. I don't know if that made sense, but it made sense to me, as if the United States could be not united, but something different. All right, here we go. Virgo, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Ariel. The second is Isaiah. The third is Sonia. And the final is Serena. A lot of us are going to be concerned about money and finances this month. I'm telling you, with Venus and Capricorn etching its way near Pluto, having Mercury coming in there, we could hear a lot of things about our resources, our money, stock market, investments. All right, Ariel is being joined by the Trust card. Isaiah is being joined by the Baird. Sonia is being joined by the Truth card, and Serena is being joined by the Water Fairy. So this is happening for Virgo in the fourth house of the home. Sagittarius rules your fourth house. This is interesting to me because Ariel talks about new psychic and spiritual experiences, changing the way I view the world. And then there's the Trust card. And I feel as if there could be the potential that you start to endeavor as a result of this new moon, more spiritual practices within the home, or feeling more at home with your spirituality. I feel a shift in your spirituality. So if indeed for some reason you've been very structured within your belief system, you may find an opening happening here, because I feel when I look at the opportunity or the obstacle for Virgo, I have the Baird, which is the history card. And then I have Isaiah saying it's time to give birth to new ideas and new situations. And as I say that for Virgo, the first thing that came into my head is that God is loving. God is not a punisher. God is not putting judgment on us. God is not saying you're good because you work hard and you're bad because you lay around. And I feel like this is something that you get to do, is start taking a little bit of that perfection off of the table and start to feel more at ease and at home with a loving energy in your belief system. Because we have, in the angel's advice, we have Sonia, your deceased loved ones, your team of angels and guides watching over you. And then there's the Truth. And the truth is that your history is strictly a device for you to make choices with. So let me explain it to you like this. Your history. I had a job working for a company I didn't really like. When I applied for the job, I knew I really didn't like the company very much, but I did like the salary. So now, as I'm connecting to a more spiritual dynamic, and the Trust is, you know what, I think I'd like to do something that is more aligned to what makes me feel good, makes me feel at home. So I'm going to start to rewrite my history and give birth to new ideas. And the truth is that I am being guided to do new things. I've been talking a long time about Virgo being the Virgin. The Virgin can't be perfect because the Virgin has no experience. So part of the Virgo energy is to allow for the journey of discovery and exploration, because I feel like there's something going on with Virgo, and I think it's a work dynamic that could potentially shift, or at least planting the seeds for a new idea with how because I know this is the house of home, but I don't know that this is directly related to the people in your home as much as it somehow feels like how you're making money. And I say that because Serena is in the final position, and there's the Water Fairy. And I feel like as Virgo gives up or starts giving life to the idea of your resources or your home, your work and home life feeling aligned. That's the way I want to put it. A sense of harmony coming in through that, a sense of feeling like I changed my thought and my experience changed. I gave myself a break. I didn't expect myself to have to be so. And I started to notice that when I wasn't trying to affect a result, I was creating the result, and it was coming to me. And now I feel a little bit more calm and more cared for by spirit and more at home in my body. Okay, I don't know why I want to put it that way, but that's what I'm going to do. All right, let's go on to our Libras. Sagittarius, Libra rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Sagittarius is your third house of community. I say community because it's neighborhoods. It is our teammates, our workmates, our young children's school friends, our thinking, our writing, our speaking, our teaching. Woo. What's going on for Libra? Our first angel is Serena. It's all about money this month. It is. It's all about our resources. It's all about feeling comfortable. There is Archangel Gabriel. She would rule the third house, ruling communications. There's Yvonne about vulnerability. And we have Ray, connection to the angelic realm. Again, this is for Libra, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Joining Serena is the water fairy. Woo. Joining Archangel Gabriel is the fire fairy. Joining Yvonne is the protection card. And joining Ray is the restriction card. Okay, so this is what I want to say for my Libras. Serena is all about abundance, but it's abundance through serenity. There's absolutely no effort whatsoever created here. You know, in my spiritual journey, I've learned that money is actually not a resource that comes to us, but a level of our believability, a level of our own sense of co-creation and our ability to make money. Because what I think is going on for Libra, I think that there's something about feeling more serene within your feelings and trusting a bigger dynamic is going on while the world feels a bit restrictive. I kind of feel like, because Archangel Gabriel deals with insecurity, with communications and insecurity within my communications. And then the fire fairy is asking me to listen for inspired action or inspired thoughts, because I don't know that every thought is one to take action on. Recently, I'm a Libra sun. I was feeling extremely vulnerable about my dog having an issue. And I went to spirit and I kept saying, you know, this is the type of thing that will put me, you know, tank me. It'll put me in such a place that I won't be able to do my work. And I felt like I heard spirit say, we're not doing that. That's not happening. Why are you going to the dark side? And what I realized was that I actually have challenged believing that I don't have to work hard to be happy, because I've spent 62 years working hard to be happy. Libra, Sagittarius is giving you an opportunity to have a foreign belief that your feelings, through the serenity of your feelings, through this sort of invitation for harmony, balance, and peace within your communities and your own mental thought process, you will start to get inspired action and you will feel a sense of safety and protection from spirit. Because without the connection, I believe that the restriction card is not actually restriction, but to take this pause and to allow for this meditative position to see that your power really comes from your connection to spirit. And it comes from your heart and how your heart speaks to yourself. So I was meditating. I tend to wake up in the middle of the night and meditate. It's just, I live on a very busy street, and between the construction, the gardeners, the traffic on the highways, my meditations can be very noisy. So I wake up and I tend to sit for about a half hour or so and listen to the ocean. And I found myself, my mind going back and forth, blah, 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 all this noise. And in that moment of recognition, rather than trying to fight and tell myself, quiet, you know, concentrate on your breathing, I called upon spirit to help me focus in on this connection between them and I. And I felt this sense of serenity come over my body as I more easily was able to connect with spirit, because I just kept asking for the pause of my mind going like this, getting out of my everyday, whatever, disagreement here, annoyance over here, challenge over there, whatever. Because meditation can be an exercise in frustration when we feel like we're not accomplishing anything by quieting our mind. So here you have Libra, third house, the way the mind works, the way the mind thinks, the smallness of the mind, but represented by the largeness of the Sagittarius philosophical viewpoint. So I really think this is an opportunity for you to shift a certain amount of way of thinking. And then as you do that, you allow yourself the privilege of having a material experience that supports that. I feel like the more I do this work, the more I realize that the psychological and energetic alignment with my outcome and my ability to really believe, to feel that outcome, because this is where Pluto gets tough. Because Pluto says, what are you pretending not to know? Because sometimes people pursue relationships and they know they're not going to work, and they pursue them anyway. And then they're hurt by them, and they're forgetting their whole participation in it, because they're being somehow in a loop. So I'm a little choppy in this one, but I feel like there's this, for Libra, this Sagittarius eclipse gives you an opportunity to have a certain surrendering of your mind. And the surrendering is in between the large thoughts or the more philosophical thoughts and the more everyday mundane minutia of our lives. And then there's somehow coming into this place of understanding that any sort of pause or any sort of restriction is not holding you back from moving, but rather illuminating a path that it will be more productive as you allow for that pause. I'm just saying. All right, let's go into Scorpio, second house. Second house rules money. So Scorpio, rising moon, sun, or stelliums. This is this Sagittarius total eclipse is happening in your second house of self-worth, of possessions. Okay, Scorpio, before I go on, I'm going to remind you, if you didn't watch the beginning of this video, that your planet, Pluto, your ruling planet, is in Capricorn, has been forever, and it's going to have some significant conversations with Venus, the planet of money, that naturally rules the second house. So I think we're going to see, for our Scorpios, Spirit is going to ask you to start to think in a completely new way and have a new philosophy about yourself. And if you've been holding yourself small, if you have been hiding underneath things, hoping somebody else or another situation would start to illuminate your power, your beauty. And when I say beauty, I'm not talking about physical beauty. I'm talking about the beautiful, savory, rich feeling of a Scorpio. It's not going to happen for you by somebody else giving it to you. It's going to come through you out. And that's the big change. And that's the seed that gets to get planted during this new moon total solar eclipse. First angel is Omega, the victory. The second is Ariel, your connection to the angelic realm. Merlina will talk about confusion. And then we have Astera. Reach for the stars with your dreams and desires. As the United States comes into its Pluto return, I really feel like this main question that all is being asked of us as humans on this planet is, what are you pretending not to know? What are you pretending not to see? What are you pretending to be victimized by? And I kind of want to say that for Scorpio, because you have such power here when you align to that deeper truth, the truth that maybe isn't sitting on the surface. Victory comes as you bow down to that sacred truth in the form of the Grail Knight, and you're willing to look at any illusions that you've created. Ariel is being joined by the Baird. That's our story, our history. Merlin is being joined by the Movement card. And Aster is being joined by the Cow, which is about abundance. So Scorpio, I want to offer this because your willingness to be brave during this eclipse, your willingness to go into Sagittarius's foreign land and start to think, am I aligned to the things that I want to experience, or am I aligned to something I hope will provide that for me or bring that to me? Because I believe that your victory comes from your aligning to the deeper truth and being willing to see the illusions that you may have created for yourself. Because Spirit is working so diligently with you to rewrite your history and to actually start to try to put a little spring in your step as you connect, not in a way to punish yourself, not in a way that makes you some sort of criminal, I almost want to say it like you're perpetrating a crime on yourself, but you're not. Your intentions, for the most part, were probably pure when you went in. It was just somewhere you got caught up in the dark and you've lost yourself, because Merlina is telling me that the confusion is what is creating the lack of movement. And the confusion is your willingness to look at the story as it has been, and then to be willing to rewrite it. Because Astera says to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires and not to compromise. And the Cow is about abundance, asking and receiving. So let me tell you a story, Scorpio. Years ago, there was a person in my life that eclipsed me all the time. Everywhere I went, I felt like the spotlight was on this other person, and other people went well out of their way to make sure that I knew that. And they didn't know they were doing it. It was just, casual conversation, but I was so aware of it. What I came to understand, that my focus on the imbalance, me pretending that I was less than that other person, was why I was experiencing a less than dynamic. So when Scorpio says, not I'm going to sting you because I'm mad because you're making me feel less than, but you're more willing to contribute, why am I holding myself less than in this situation? Maybe it's time for me not to do that. Maybe it's time for me to be brave about, if I really want to experience a certain dynamic, then I have to be holding a light for that dynamic and not wanting somebody to come in and bring it to me. Scorpio naturally rules, we don't think of it as coupling, but it is, because it's other people's money. It's other people's, inheritance, taxes, sex. Some people can have sex by themselves, but most people have sex with other people. So this is, again, this sort of in the dark, willing to light a candle to see, are you aligned to what you want to experience in the way of feeling valuable? And it's an opportunity to rewrite your history, the history in your head. Thank God we don't remember our past lives. I can't even imagine the burden that would be. All right, Sagittarius, this is for you in your first house of self. I think you may be finding a lot of epiphanies happening for you, and you may decide you're going to go your own way. And I think that's awesome. All right, Sagittarius. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Again, the United States is having this, has a Sagittarius ascendant. So we're going to see this affect the United States, which will affect everybody as well. All right, Sagittarius, let's see. Our first angel is Daniel, the angel of partnership and marriage. Yvonne, the angel of vulnerability. Then we have Isabella, and the angel's advice, and finally Rosetta. Daniel is being joined by the communications card. Yvonne is being joined by the forgiveness card. Isabella's being joined by the serpent. And Rosetta is being joined by the horse. Okay, so I wasn't sure if Daniel was going to represent partnership because it represents marriage. But the deeper meaning of Daniel is the history that I bring into partnership. So if you're a person who's been cheated on endlessly, then you come into partnership with some trepidation about commitment, about trust. So I think as Sagittarius rising being the perception of how you look at the world. So I'm going to go straight up to the philosophical dynamic, because here's the communications card with the angel of marriage. And I feel like this is an opportunity for Sagittarius to start to tell a new story about who you are, what you are, and where you've been. Because in the final position, we have Rosetta and we have the horse. And the horse would represent Sagittarius for me. And Rosetta, while it represents children, it feels like it represents the inner child. And in some ways, allowing the inner child to be free of the story that the adult has been experiencing over again. Because in the opportunity or the obstacle, we have Yvonne, the angel of vulnerability, with the forgiveness card. And the one thing that I have learned in this lifetime, I'm at 62 years old, is to seek the wisdom in the challenge, in the disruption, in the thing that pisses me off, okay? And the more I seek the wisdom, I seek the tool, I seek the reason behind it, the more solace I actually find. I don't have to take responsibility for everything, but my awareness can then shift the situation. Because 9 times out of 10, me being vulnerable to the situation and understanding that it brings me a tool. So let me go back to repeating myself. Lucky had an allergy attack. He's my first dog as an adult. I had one dog as a child. I like to treat things naturally. So I didn't run to the vet and spend thousands of dollars on tests. I trusted a deeper inner knowing of myself. And I went through this period of trepidation of the unknowing, but then I started to feel triumphant as I was vulnerable. Because yes, the timing is right for you to shed a new skin, for you to allow whatever the communication is about your story and your history in relationships with others to be transformed. So it's time to get on your horse and ride in a new direction. And this total solar eclipse is planting the seeds for that new perception. It's planting the seeds for what if everything that came before actually has served me. It's actually been something that was good, something that was like manure in a garden. It may stink at first, but then it gives all this nutrients into the soil to grow something rich. And my job as the gardener is not to be impatient with the process. Because again, this is in your house of self, how you identify yourself, how you view the world, and giving yourself an opportunity to move into what is considered foreign. Anything that is not normal for you is foreign. So if you've adopted a new belief system, allowing yourself to explore that, allowing to see your alignment. Personally, for me, what I've experienced is the awareness of habitual ways of thinking, that I don't actually think anymore. They just come from this history that I have. And one of them is that I'm too assertive. Many people find me, oftentimes people are like, you're so confident. And I don't know if that's correct or not. All I know is I'm brave. I'm brave enough to put myself out there. I'm brave enough to fall. Is that confidence? Maybe. So I think that this is for Sagittarius is an opportunity for you to redefine who and what you are by your rules, not by the rules of somebody else. All right, let's go on to our Pisces. No, Pisces, what am I saying? Capricorn, but we're going into the 12th house. That's why I said Pisces. Sagittarius for Capricorn is the 12th house. The 12th house naturally rules ancestors, past lives. It's the house, to me, that's really extremely intuitive because it's the house behind the physical self. The first house represents the body, represents the perception, how we take action on the earth. So what's behind me is what I can only know from my intuitions, from my inner being, from my emotional body. So how is Sagittarius going to, or this Sagittarian eclipse going to affect Capricorn? It's going to give you an opportunity to go into new philosophies of what you want for yourself and how you operate in the world. I challenge any Capricorn to go to YouTube and look at baby goats versus old goats, because most people depict Capricorn as an old goat, and I think of them as the baby goats, happy, prancing, and fun. And the only thing that Saturn asks of you is to pick the lane that you want to play and jump and have fun in, because once you pick that lane, Saturn wants you to work hard at it. So Capricorn, the 12th house is also rules hospitals and research and laboratories and things that we do in isolation, work that we do in isolation. So let's see how this is going to affect you. We have Rosetta in the foundational position. We have Adriana in the opportunity or the obstacle. We have Fiona in the angel's advice, and then we have Ariel. We're seeing a lot of interesting dynamics where the Sagittarius represents the connection to the angelic realm, and almost every sign is getting this call of action to go into the inner child and allow that connection to spirit to be the driving force for the times ahead. Driving connection, and not in a disempowered way where you're going, please God help me. This is in working in tandem with your guides, in tandem with source energy, in tandem with God. Rosetta is being joined by the mystery card. Merlin is joining Adriana. Fiona is being joined by the history card, and Ariel is being joined by the fear card. So Capricorn, your Saturn rules fear. That's interesting. But I want to offer this because, again, I started off talking about baby goats and old goats. And the mystery card is choice. And I feel like this is giving you an opportunity to make a choice that you would not have made for yourself in a previous chapter of your life. It's kind of where I almost feel like the Sagittarius dynamic, rather than staying behind you, the horse is running up on you and saying, who and what do you want to be when you grow up, Capricorn? Because it's time for you to make a choice from a childlike innocence, not from the dutiful dynamic of what is expected of you. Because Merlin is offering you alchemy, justice, and balance as you follow the inner knowing of your contract. So let me say what I mean by the inner knowing of your contract. Every soul chooses a certain dynamic with which it incarnates, hence the natal chart. This is what I think of as the syllabus. Some classes I excel at, some classes I fail at, and some classes I drop altogether because they're just too much. So for me, at this juncture, Capricorn is choosing to go into a place of, I don't really see myself, acknowledging when I've been self-deprecating and don't see myself, and bring myself forward, but not in a way that's selfish, but allows myself to have more childlike innocence and fun in the world, because Spirit is urging you. They're calling you, please take that childlike innocence and let us bring you joy and balance. Let Saturn bring the reward it offers. This is one of the most beautiful things about Capricorn. Saturn offers great reward for all the hard work. It never asks or tells you what lane to go in. That's what you pick, because you're being offered triumph over your history, over your story, over what has happened before. And now that you've asked God and the angels for help, part of you has to join the party of following their lead, because here we have Ariel telling you that new psychic and spiritual experiences are changing the way you view yourself and others. And there's the fear card. So let me, this is fear transformed. I hate being scared. I hate feeling vulnerable to loss, to devastation. But each and every time I dig deep into what is fear mean to me, it has offered me exhilaration, empowerment, achievement, and the tail wag of knowing that I accomplished something I didn't think I could accomplish. But I only know that because I've stayed connected to spirit. So in order for you, Capricorn, to use this Sagittarian energy to your highest and greatest good, it is to call upon your guides and your ancestors, because this is happening in your 12th house, to help you incorporate new concepts, new ideas, and the connection you have to your guides and your angels, so that you may walk through these days coming ahead with the intention to serve yourself in a more joyful way, which will then serve others. Capricorn's a leadership sign. All right, let's go on to our Aquariuses, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Sagittarius is your 11th house. Kind of threw myself off there because Aquarius rules the 11th house naturally. I got a little hit there. So rules money. 11th house rules money. Hopes and dreams rules our networks. Let's see what Spirit has to say for you. Because you may want to open up to new ideas in your networking for this new moon, meaning new social media platforms, new content. All right, Aquarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Crystal is in our foundational position. Then we have Chantal, the angel of romance, in our opportunity and our obstacle. We have Archangel Uriel in the angel's advice. And in the final position, we have Rosetta again. I'm convinced this Rosetta is about the inner child. It's come up in almost every single reading. So one of the shadow sides of Aquarius is this feeling of being like, alien. And here we have this foreign idea, Sagittarius ruling foreign things, foreign travel. Oh my goodness. I just got this feeling, Aquarius, if you're traveling this month, be mindful, because your two ruling planets are squaring each other. And then this new solar eclipse, you may find yourself stuck in a foreign country if you're traveling to a foreign country. But anyway, that's just a side note. Crystal is being joined by the frog. Chantal is being joined by the wind fairy. Archangel Uriel is being joined by Merlin. And Rosetta is being joined by the love card. A lot of relationships transitioned in the last year or so as we saw these aspects bringing things up that were out of balance. I feel when I look at this for Aquarius, having this eclipse in your 11th house of hopes and dreams, in the house of making your own money as a result of those hopes and dreams. Crystal says, have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon that you can't see. And while I look at this frog, I feel like it's not representing the cleaning of emotional baggage, but it represents the abundance in the Asian culture. I believe it's the Japanese culture. I could be wrong. Might be it's Chinese medicine. I'm not sure, but the frog is one of abundance. You'll see it. Oh, it is in Asian restaurants. You see the frog with a coin in its mouth, and that is to call in abundance. So I feel as if this is an opportunity for you to call in abundance. And I want to offer it this way, because the abundance, I think, may be in direct relationship to an intimate relationship, or the wanting of an intimate relationship. Chantal talks about a new partnership forming, or the resurgence of love within a partnership. And then we have the wind fairy. And the wind fairy is going to put you in your ego and in your mind and in the loop of how you think about romance. And this is why Crystal is asking you to have faith and hope, because I believe there's some good luck coming for you. And I'll tell you why. Because even though Archangel Uriel deals with frustration and anger, Merlin is offering balance, as even though there is frustration. So the frustration may be with your mind. And I can't help but say, bless the broken road, because I feel as if when you are authentic and you look back at your relationships, you'll be like, well, that one wasn't right, and that one wasn't right, and that one wasn't going to really work out very well long term, because I think there is a very high probability that in the very near future, you may either meet somebody, or you may meet somebody who's foreign to you, or there may be a whole new dynamic to your relationship that you two experience together that you've never experienced before. Because Rosetta can represent children, yes, but I feel like this feels like newness to me in love. It feels like a resurgence of feeling thriving in a situation. So let's say that you've been married for 25 years. Let's say that, you've decided, you're both retiring and you're looking at your next chapter. And what if that next chapter isn't just sitting in a Barca lounge or watching CNN, but rather a situation that actually connects you in a new dynamic that you've never had before and revitalizes your whole relationship, making you closer friends, making you laugh more easily, making you enjoy things more. I really want to offer the idea that this 11th house is a networking house. So you may even birth something in a social way. It's a very social house. And then Sagittarius itself, it feels social, it's traveling and this and that. And you may come up with a plan to literally network in a foreign country and start to build your base. I almost feel like I see the spider web, which feels like it's building groups of people in areas that are not just my community. And I feel a sense of inspiration as a result of it. So I want to offer it this way, because even though the world dynamics in the United States transits are a little bit challenging, lot bit challenging, people have thrived through challenging times. And I want to offer this for Aquarius because you're such an innovator, and technology is something that your sign rules. So if you feel the inspirations, allow yourself the journey of discovery and exploration, Sagittarius, because you'll probably see something come to fruition 6 months from now, because you're planting the seeds this month. Okay, let's go on to our final sign, Pisces. Sagittarius rules your 10th house. That is the highest point in the chart. In the traditional chart, rules our public image, how we're seen out in the world. Let's see what Pisces has going on. Our first angel for Pisces is Grace and Antoinette. The second is Layla. The third is Archangel Raphael. And the final is Serena. We're all going to be thinking about our money. I'm telling you. And I want to offer, because worry is a form of prayer that doesn't serve us. So again, if we have concerns about our resources, the focus in on the lack of resources will pinch off more resources from coming. So have compassion for self as you walk through a bit of an unsure path. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by Merlin. Layla's being joined by the owl. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the wasp. And Serena's being joined by the love card. All right, Pisces. So Grace and Antoinette is all about compassion. And frankly, from my perspective as a person, compassion it trumps love every single time, because compassion doesn't require me to have a feeling for you. It doesn't require me to be connected to you for me to have compassion for you. And I want to offer this because this compassion with Merlin here, this represents justice and balance. Now we have your 10th house highlighted during a Sagittarius solar eclipse. It's a new moon. Sagittarius represents justice in some respects. It represents the higher realms of the legal system, of structure. And here we are in the 10th house. So as things seem a little wonky, rather than trying to, sorry, I kicked the table, rather than trying to swim away and be afraid, hold hold your own, because I feel like it's very important for you to connect with the Neptunian aspects of yourself and literally use the water element to anchor yourself between this feeling of fear and safety at the same time. And if you have no water around you, try to take a tub, put some Epsom salts in the tub so you have that salt element to help detoxify yourself, because you could find yourself feeling very, very annoyed with yourself. And Archangel Raphael is here saying that that's not really going to serve you. It's going to put you in a loop. So Layla is saying, spend time in nature, focusing in on what you want. Your brain will probably shoot back to what you're challenged by, but as you're aware that you're shooting this direction, then slowly move yourself this direction or towards what it is that you want, because Serena is the angel of abundance and we have the love card here. And I have to tell you that right now, you may be in a place where you're like, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. Pisces in general feels very much like a sign that thinks globally, thinks, it's the yin and the yang for me. It represents the past lives. It represents Neptune, which is all very spiritual and it's higher vibration. And as we go through these challenging times and we see the effects of Venus hanging out in Capricorn till March of 2022, we may feel restriction in our money and in our lives. And you may feel a bit of restriction in your ability to move your professional life forward. But I want to offer it this way, because as you, rather than focus in on the problem, as you're able to shift or move towards something you do have influence over, you'll start to see how the universe is opening up for you and actually delivering you elements that you require but didn't know how to find. It could be, relationships with people that become resources for whatever it is that you need to move your story forward in a more public way. That 10th house is really kind of speaking to me, and that Pisces is going to move into a situation that they haven't experienced before, but they've been conceptualizing for a while and they've been focusing in on. And now it's having compassion as you walk through some of the more restrictive parts of the journey. As you come up on a turn, you can't really see what's going to happen around that turn. So you sort of have to go on an instinctual basis. For me personally, I'm 62 years old. So I grew up when there was no cell phones. I grew up when there was no computer that sat on your desk at home. So my career really didn't get to start until technology had evolved to a place where it could facilitate my career. So there may be a little bit of that going on. And this is where you get to show some self-compassion as we see things roll out that you then will implement at a later date. Okay, that's it. It's going to be I think it's going to be a crazy month. I think that the holidays are going to be a mixed bag of, how do I want to put it? I feel like revelations are going to come both from the outside influence and within ourselves as well. And I feel like the more we as individuals seek the wisdom of any disruptions we walk through, the more powerful we will be with influencing our lives into a place of balance. And in doing so, we will represent an awakening for others, so we don't have to feel the swirl of fear that's going to pull us under and drown us. So that's it for me for the month of December 2021. I'll be back with my more content before the end of the year, but this will be my last monthly horoscope for 2021. So we'll see what January holds for us. If you'd like to book a reading with me, I am available. You can contact me through the information below, and have a lovely holiday, everybody. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with the journey of disruption, because oftentimes disruption is the doorway to our dreams. All right, that's it for me. I'm Teri Hunter. Peace out.